Some folks express concerns about the taste of Norman's drinking water, and it seems to be a seasonal concern, and it's not a year-round necessarily, which is not at all unusual for communities that are on surface water drinking sources. So our primary source of drinking water is Lake Thunderbird. Lake Thunderbird is an aquatic ecosystem, so it's constantly changing with the seasons, and one of the things that happens when temperatures changes is that the lake, which gets stratified in the summertime, warm water on the top, cold water down below, well, when the air temperature changes, the lake begins to de-stratify and begins to mix. So a lot of the water that's on the bottom, which is anaerobic, no oxygen, comes up to the surface, and the surface water goes down below, and the lake turns over. We call it turning over the lake. What that does is essentially change the chemistry of the lake, and it therefore changes the chemistry of the water that goes into the water treatment facility. The Norman Water Treatment Plant folks then oftentimes modify their process to address the fact that the lake's turning over. And that means they'll do things like add some additional disinfectant, they'll chlorinate the water. I think Norman water is very good. I drink Norman water, my family drinks Norman water. I don't tell my 9-year-old daughter to drink anything other than Norman water. Matter of fact, she needs to drink more water, as a lot of kids do. It meets all the applicable regulatory standards. I think some of the controversy in recent years has been because those standards have changed, especially the arsenic standard. A few years ago, it was changed based upon new data that US EPA had received, and the regulatory limit was lower. What that meant for Norman was that some of our wells were outside of the compliance, so we had to eliminate those wells or treat that water in a different way. So I think that raised some concerns to the public. The fact of the matter is, though, Norman acted very quickly. As soon as they knew they were going to have to address this arsenic issue, they did. And we've been in compliance before and after. There's also the chromium issue that has come up in recent years. The study that was reported a few years ago really was based on a single data point collected somewhere in Norman. I think there are significant scientific questions about those data. But the fact of the matter is, there is chromium in the groundwater sources, naturally occurring, just like arsenic. It's not a contamination issue, it's naturally occurring. And we measure chromium in our drinking water in Norman. We have to, it's regulated, and we're well below the current regulations. If EPA does decide to change those regulations, I am confident the city will do the same thing they did with arsenic. And they'll either take those wells offline or make some other changes to maintain compliance.